Okay, it's the Monday session. Gee, surprise, surprise, Bitcoin's doing exactly what I told you it would do. Exactly what the bears told us it wouldn't do in the herd. It's rallying and it's breaking out. Told you Bitcoin was likely putting in a bottom, a key support under the 200 period moving average. Talked about this, talked about it over here. Told you if we didn't bottom over here, we'd just undercut this low a little bit and end up forming a divergence on the RSI and other indicators, which is what ended up happening. We're getting a rally. The herd told us this wasn't going to happen. I've been attacked over and over for saying we're going to rally back up. Right now, Bitcoin is up 2.38% at the moment for the Monday session. For the Sunday session, it had rallied 2.70%, almost 3% higher, back up to the trend line. Oh, gee, we talked about this trend line. Going back, testing it, getting above the 200. Told you that was going to happen, and then building momentum to clear the trend line. Told you all of this because we had the bottoming signals back over here, then the momentum signals turned. Now we're seeing the trend signals begin to turn back to bullish, as I've been predicting. Now, again, we might break out and backtest. If we get a successful breakout here, then we'll need to hold above the 200 period moving average, hold above this low right here. Told you again that a bull flag was forming and that we were back testing and that we needed to clear this level, clear the trend line, and that was coming if we were to get a successful back test. You know, I've been attacked and saying, oh, we have a bear flag. Well, we really don't have a bear flag. We have a possible rising wedge, but we could just blow through this area. As I've said, we're coming back to test the 50 period and the resistance zone, but people ignore the other bull flag on the intraday charts and all the bullish bottoming signals, and that momentum had flipped. So again, I think we're coming up into this area, the resistance zone for a test, and this other trend line up here, which is this larger bull flag. Oh, the herd, they love the bearish, this, there's a bear flag there. But they ignore the bigger picture, the larger bull flag at the trend line of support. We're bouncing off the 50-week moving average, and again, back when I called the December and January tops, I told you we were going to sell off, and we went lower than I thought. Signals have remained consistently bearish through the decline. We broke through support levels. And again, back when I called these tops, the day of the top of January, the day of the top in December, the herd was extremely bullish. Bears had lost all hope for decline. Now, again, the bears have told us there's no way we're going to rally. Oh, gee, what's happening? We're rallying. I told you the bears are going to end up getting a short squeeze on their positions. I told you the herd would begin to get hope. Oh, what are we rallying on? Oh, hopes that Trump is going to soften his stance on the tariffs. Hopes that maybe things might get better with the tariffs. Who told you that was going to happen? Who told you, again, there'll be a rally of hope, and there'll likely be more hope. Europe coming to the negotiating table. Hopes that the tariffs are delayed or postponed and that a deal is reached. Who told you that this was going to happen? The bears told us we were going to have the tariffs come on play, and we were going to see a complete collapse in Bitcoin, a complete collapse in the stock market. And I told you we're going to new all-time highs. And then we're going to get the real top, not this fake, phony, baloney, plastic banana, good time, rock and roll, fake top, the real deal, Don Steele. Please support the channel. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel today. If you could take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. I don't have any sponsors. I turn those offers down. I don't want to send you to some exchange that wants to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out, and that's what they do. A lot of these shady deals. I don't want any part of that. So I just ask that you partner with me and do what you can to help out. Again, most YouTube channels make their money through sponsorship. I don't choose to do that. I don't want to sell you things. You go to websites that want to sell you things or get you leveraged up. So just follow the link below. It'll take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want or make it a recurring donation. If you could just take a moment to help out, I would really, really appreciate it. It takes a lot of time and effort to do this. If you like my signals, you like my charts, let me know that by supporting the channel. And I thank you for that. Watch the video all the way through and you're going to see amazing signals like this. Now, another thing creating hope, well, Michael Saylor's strategy made another Bitcoin purchase. They acquired 6,911 Bitcoin, pushing their total Bitcoin holdings beyond 500,000. So again, hope. If Michael Saylor's buying more, maybe there's hope. You see what I'm saying? As Bitcoin's coming up to this previous high over here, and we're breaking above it, we're breaking the downtrend, we're coming to this resistance area from the January low. So there's going to be some resistance here, and our 50 period is just above that. Again, we may end up back testing. In order to have a successful breakout, we have to remain above the trend line, okay? And we have to remain above the 200 period moving average. So again, we might dip below the 200 period on a back test, but then get right back above it like we did over here. We got above it, and then we pull back and we back tested that smaller bull flag. We dipped below it briefly, but then got back above it. We got to hold above that 200 period if we're going to confirm this as a bottom, so and not have a failed breakout. So again, like I said, I think we're eventually coming back up here, but you're hitting this horizontal resistance right here right now. The S&P is doing something very similar. And again, the S&P is coming up, testing that 200 period as Bitcoin is trying to overthrow it. The S&P has slightly overthrown it. See if it gets a reaction off of it or if it tries to clear it by the end of the day. Can it hold above it? Can Bitcoin hold above the 200 period moving average? So again, eventually I think we're going to come back and take out 109,000. And again, I think that we'll finish the blow off top. Now, we had these bullish divergences, and here at this low, I told you again, you got a good shot at a bottom, but I told you could still end up forming this larger divergence on the RSI. That's what ended up happening, because I told you right below this level is horizontal support at 74,000, Bitcoin's average price. So you had a lot of support, and we might have tried to still test it. We ended up doing that, but I talked about both of those scenarios. I told you if we rallied and got rejection at the 20 period, that we could still go down and get another push down to form that divergence. What happened? We ended up getting rejection at the 20 period moving average. I always tell you, again, hey, I think you got a good shot at the bottom here. I always tell you what could happen if we don't. I gave you that other scenario, which that scenario ended up playing out. We just undercut this. We couldn't close below it. We just undercut it. We went down to 76,600 here. We were at the 78,000 area. So again, you're being told there's no way Bitcoin's going to rally. What's Bitcoin doing? It's rallying. Now we're getting the 10, trying to cross here back above the 20 period moving average, trying to turn back up. So again, I expect you're going to get a big rally with Bitcoin. We'll see if we back test or not. Again, now I want to show you something. The bears told us when we got this rally over here that, oh, it's the CME gap. The CME gap's filling, and we're all going to die, and we're going to collapse after that. And I told you, again, if we did go lower, it would be a divergence that would likely form. And you can see that right here in the oscillator. We saw it develop on the RSI and other indicators. There are a lot of indicators with bullish divergence once we hit that low. It's very difficult to find an indicator that didn't have one. Now, bears tell us about this gap fill, but they don't bother telling us about the gap fill over here from the election. Okay, we came back over here and we filled the gap from the election, just as NASDAQ has done, and that was the election on hopes. And again, crypto strategic reserve and Trump's going to win and all this, and we got that election rally, just before the election, and then with the election we had that election gap. When Trump officially won, and now we've come back and filled that gap. They'd love to tell us about this gap, but they ignored this one, that we're filling the election gap. And again, likely bottoming with that here at the 200 period with the Bitcoin futures. The risk is, and again, while I think we have likely bottomed, let me tell you what happens if we don't. What happens if we don't have a bottom in? Well, we'll have a failed breakout. We'll end up dropping back below the lower boundary of the cloud, and we'll flip. Right now, as we're getting this rally, the Bitcoin futures are trying to show, this is Bitcoin futures trying to show a bullish reversal of conditions. Now, the risk is that we end up forming another reference point of a divergence and coming down and getting one more push lower below this low. Comes out and says the word tariffs again, markets freak out, whatever, Guess, and I have the guts to tell you exactly what I think. My guess is that we've likely bottomed. Okay? I'm very, very bullish on Bitcoin. But if I'm wrong about the bottom right here, this scenario could still play out. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? Again, I don't know the future. I just look at support and resistance. I can tell you what I think, and I have really, really good indicators, but it's all about support and resistance. If we end up with a failed breakout, then this scenario comes into play. If we just start seeing awesome oscillator bars go into positive territory, then you've got your divergence, you got your bottom, and we can confirm that as long as we hold above the 200. You drop back below the 200 period, then you have a potential failed breakout. Oh, you're supposed to know the future. You're supposed to be able to tell me the exact future. Some people have absolutely unrealistic expectations. I've made some amazing calls, calling tops and bottoms. This sell-off right here, we've gone lower than I thought, but like I said, look at my indicators. My indicators have remained consistently bearish. Tried to flip bullish here, turned right back to bearish. And again, you'll see that in the charts if you watch the video all the way through. But looking at mathematically based indicators, I'm looking at support and resistance levels. So again, I'm telling you, we have a potential reversal here. My signals are trying to now turn back to bullish. But if we get a failed breakout, which can happen, then this scenario has happened. Do I think this is likely going to be the case? Probably not, but it could be if we end up with a failed breakout. So don't have unrealistic expectations. Again, yes, do I think Bitcoin's going to go to new highs? Yes. Do I think it's going to go up to the upper channel line and top out? Yeah, but again, then you have other people with unrealistic expectations. When we get there, and here it is. Again, I think we're going to this upper channel line. And when we get there, when we get to my target, maybe it happens quickly. Maybe we see a massive push, something, parabolic that we just go straight up. Then the target's going to be a little bit lower. If we take our time reaching it, 135, 145,000. If we take longer, if we take going on into the summer, maybe you're going above 150,000, 155, something like that. A number is not my target. The trend line is my target. Whenever we come into contact with it, we may reach it going parabolic. We may take our time reaching it, but I think you're going to reach it. So I think you're probably going to the 135, 145,000 area, maybe a little bit lower if you do it quickly, maybe a little bit higher than that if you take your time doing it and stretch it out on into the summer. But this is where I think Bitcoin's going. And when we get there, the herd that told us at this sell-off, no possible way that can happen, just like over here at the March high, no possible way it's going down. And again, the herd is extremely bullish at tops and extremely bearish at bottoms. That's why I told you, I believe we have a bottom because the herd was so bearish. Sentiment was bearish. The fear, extreme fear was present. We had Bitcoin form a divergence with extreme fear, as I talked about in a previous update. This is where I think we're headed. And when we get there, when we get up to this area, and it may be, that it's lower. Maybe, we don't reach it. We fall short of it. Over here, when we hit the trend line here, we came and we fell short of it. Maybe it's just at 125,000 or something like that. Okay, maybe we fall short of the trend line, but the trend line is my target. I'm looking for clues. We may fall short of it. That's possible. We fell short of it over here. You got a pretty good chance of reaching it. More often than not, Bitcoin reaches these channel lines. And again, Bitcoin makes the most beautiful channels I've ever seen in my life. This is where we're going, and I don't think it's unrealistic, an unrealistic target. But again, the herd that told us, that are freaking out right now, and again, their sentiment is going to quickly turn back to bullish, and their fear is going to turn back to greed. And when we get up here, they're not going to see the top again. That's what the herd does. Again, well, I'm bullish, and I believe Bitcoin's going to go higher and make new all-time highs. Again, also planning on selling into the rally and flipping the trade and going back to short. I'm a trader. I trade Bitcoin back and forth. I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes. If it goes up, great. If it goes down, great. I can make money either direction. I trade Bitcoin back and forth. I'm a trader. Heard when we get up here, they're going to be going 250,000, 350,000, 500,000, 700,000, $1 million, and they're going to try to outdo each other. They always do, and then they're going to ride it all the way back down, and we're likely going to go back and take out this low. And there's a major trend line of support just under this low, and that will be the next bear market as Bitcoin begins to price in the recession. Right now, we've had Bitcoin turned down. There's concerns about the economy with the negative GDP, about the tariffs and so forth, and recession. The people that told us no possible way now, we're going to have a recession. This is a preview of coming attractions. The next drop we get, we've dropped 30%. The next drop we get is going to be a 50% drop. Once we go up and make new highs and top out with the below this trend line or at this trend line or whatever, and complete the wave 5 that I'm looking for, Bitcoin's going to get an immediate 50% drop. That's going to make this look like a picnic, okay? And this 33% drop over here look like nothing, okay? And it's going to freak them out, and they're going to end up riding this all the way back down, just like they did in 2021. Now, again, I've been warning you that Bitcoin is at the 50-week and the 50 EMA, the 50 simple moving average. We've got a bull flag, okay? We're eventually going to make our way and try to break out of this bull flag. The RSI right now is trying to push back above 50. I told you if we can bounce off the 50 and get the RSI back above 50, you'll reaffirm the bullish 50-50 signal. Again, we over here at the 2023 low, we bounced here off of the 50 and we got back above the 50 on the RSI after this bullish bottom in 2022. Being above the 50, we reaffirmed it there. And then we reaffirmed it over here at this level, and it looks like we're going to reaffirm it again. And again, the bull flag, I think, will take us to new highs. Just have realistic expectations and not. I saw one guy on X, formerly Twitter, that in the next few weeks we're going to be at $2 million. I mean, you talk about people out of touch with reality. That is so out of touch with reality. Bitcoin. Be a person who has unrealistic expectations. Yes, I think Bitcoin's going to move higher, but we have resistance, at the trend line, and again, we're going to top. Why? Recession is coming. No, we're not going to have a recession. We're going to have a soft landing, and that's the narrative. But I believe the recession indicators, they were flashing long before the tariffs, long before Trump ever won the election. We're going to have a recession. I happen to believe the recession indicators. So again, I think we're bouncing off the 2023 trend line. That's this blue trend line right here. I think we're bouncing off the 50. I think you've got your bull flag. Now you're trying to get back above the 50 level. And if you do, and again, we had a couple of tests of this 50 area here as we went sideways. But again, you bounced off that 50-week moving average. So again, I think that here, it's likely we're going to see a breakout of the bull flag here in the weekly time frame. I do think that will form a larger divergence on the RSI. I think the RSI will come up here and end up forming this larger divergence like that. And I think that will give us a peak. And maybe that's at a lower level, 125, 130,000 or something if we do it quickly. Maybe 135, 145,000 if we take our time a little bit. And if we really take our time, if we go into 135, 145,000, if we go into May or something. But if we go on into the summer, then you're looking at higher levels. Have realistic expectations of where Bitcoin might go and not be like the Moon Boys and out of touch with reality. I told you we were going to try to clear this trend line, and I told you we might do it over the weekend or early this week. And again, we had the rally up to the trend line on Sunday, and then we cleared it here on Monday. And now we're getting above the 200. Look at the 50. It's moving towards the 200 here on the 4-hour chart. Our bullish divergences on the 4-hour chart and on the daily chart. Look at the RSI. Again, the bullish divergences that I told you about have now played out. So again, I think we're headed to this trend line right here eventually, and to test the resistance zone, which is the peak here and the peak here. And as what I think could happen is we could either blow past the trend line and the resistance zone, and you get maybe a wave 3 and a breakout and a back test, okay? Or you stall at these areas and then you pull back and build momentum to clear them. And maybe we back test this trend line right here, possible. Or maybe we do it immediately and then try to go on and test this other trend line. But again, whichever way it plays out, again, I think we're eventually going to break above this trend line. This is the upper boundary of that larger bull flag. And again, here's the smaller bull flag that I told you about that we were back testing. The bears telling us, oh, no, we have this bear flag and we're all going to die. And again, if this is a failed breakout, then we can go down to this low again, possible, as I've mentioned. Again, let's realistic expectations. If we get a failed breakout, we get a failed breakout. But if we get a successful breakout, then again, you want to hold above the 200 period in the daily time frame. You want to be able to hold above this trend line. You can back test it, but you got to hold above it. So again, the bullish divergences I told you about at the bottom are now playing out. Live it, love it, learn it. Now, here is our 4-hour chart. Here is our 4-hour chart. And again, told you about this smaller bull flag right here. Told you about, again, that we undercut this low over here, but we couldn't close below it. And that gave us a bullish divergence on indicators in the 4-hour time frame and in the daily time frame. So again, you got this possible rising wedge if we end up with a failed breakout. My guess is that you have a bottom, but I'm showing you what could happen if we have a failed breakout and we end up dropping back below. You know, Trump comes out and says the word tariffs again and everybody goes, ah! We're all going to die. So again, we've got to hold above the 200 in the daily, but bars have turned back to green now here in the 4-hour time frame. So this is positive after, again, going from green to red, really in this consolidation sideways and the breakout. We did the pullback there. So we'll see if we can continue the momentum, if we can continue towards, again, our resistance zone for a test in that larger downward trend line that I've talked about. So again, getting back above, we need to get back above the 90,000 area to move into this range here. And again, really between that 93 and 95,000 area is our resistance zone. But intraday momentum going positive now, and again, a bullish divergence forming out in a lot of indicators, and now flipping to positive here. So again, I warned you that we had a bottom in likely on March 11th. So far, that is being proven correct, which was this low right here. I told you I thought it was over here, but I told you we still could get that divergence. We ended up getting the divergence scenario, but then I got more bottoming signals here, and I told you we've likely bottomed. And before the rally back up ever happened, we talked about this, that Bitcoin was trying to bottom out. Now, here I have the bars reflecting the trend, and they're flipping back to green right here. Previously, I showed it to you. It was with momentum. Here, though, again, look at the divergence. And now we're moving into the positive region, which I told you we needed to see that happen. Momentum has been bearish through the decline. The bullish divergence marked the bottom, and now it's going positive, which, again, we're likely going to see more and more signals turn bullish. We had the bottoming signals, and then now was followed by momentum signals turning bullish, and then we're now starting to see trend signals begin to turn back to bullish, and we're going to see more. Here I have the bars turning colors. I programmed it to turn. When it turns green, the trend starts changing, and it tells you either going sideways or up. When it turns red, it tells you either going sideways or down. But I've programmed it to turn when the trend changes, and we're seeing that here. Here it tried to, and then we had that back test. Here it tried to, and it failed. And now we're breaking the trend line, and we're seeing it happen again with Sunday's bar. So again, likely the trend is flipping. Now, usually that happens before the background changes and the line changes. So that's coming, and that will probably be in the next day or two. But we've now seen the bars flip back to green on Sunday. So again, absolutely incredible. The run up, the downturn. Here we tried to flip. It was a false move, and it quickly turned back to red. Here we flipped, but it was only brief. And then the signals, the bearish signals came back, and we've had the bearish signals in place. We're trying to flip back to bullish. So again, this is exactly what I told you to be watching for, is for the trend signals to begin to now flip back to bullish. We're now seeing that. The bottoming signals, momentum began to turn back to bullish. Now the trend signals are starting to turn back to bullish. Now here I have programmed the indicator to tell me when the cycle changes. And this is just looking, and I call it the trend cycle navigator, at the short-term cycles on Bitcoin, the swing moves. Here, everything's turning back to bullish. Background's turning back to green. The bars and things are turning back up. Still more work to be done, but again, try to do it here, it failed. Try to do it here, it failed. Here, we're clearing the cloud, and it looks like it's not failing. We're here, tried to get here, the turn, and it ended up failing, and we reaffirmed the bearish signal. Here, the trend cycle is trying to now change after those bottoming signals. The momentum turning to bullish. Now we're starting to see the trend signals begin to change. And here, the trend cycle. Had all these bullish divergences begin to play out. Had these bottoming signals form. And again, now we're beginning to see them play out. The topping signals played out over here. We're starting to see things flip back to green and back to blue. All these bottoming signals form, and again, now we're seeing things begin to change. And we're getting the rally. Warned you about, again, the bottoming signals over and over again. Here, Bitcoin's daily chart, we had one over here, and then we had one over here, and now we're starting to